It's very, very heavy. If you and I were born 300 years ago, we would be nothing but slaves to the white men. We would have been the ones who suffered bitterly because we were likely going to be slaves, living the whole of our lives in pain and struggles. But luckily for us, we weren't the one alive at the time. It was our forefathers and ancestors who went through this hardship. Well, at some point in your life, you would have heard stories about the slave trade that happened in Nigeria about 300 years ago.
For 18 hours every day, and the train will also be around their neck for 3 to 4 months while they are on that way.
So this chain is as old as 500 years.
Yes.
You see, long before the white men came to Nigeria, slavery was already existing within Nigerian society, particularly among the Yorubas, Hausas, and Igbos. Apparently, we were enslaving ourselves among ourselves, even before the involvement of the white men. This is how it was done back then. People that were enslaved were mostly war captives, criminals, and debtors. But along the line, the white men started coming in, and it all started in the late 15th century. 1472, about 500 years ago, when the white men came down here and started meeting the black influential people like the chiefs and kings of each community to buy slaves from them. So the chiefs who already had slaves in their custody would go on to sell to the white men. You see, the white men didn't come to Nigeria and start picking slaves randomly. No, it was the black leaders who sold their fellow black people to the white men in exchange of materials, not even money, materials.
Now here in Badagry, we have Vilicated slave market, finally established in the year 1502, where 300 slaves were being sold in a day. So
Badagry was the meeting point. It was a major hub for slave trade between the 16th and 19th century. European traders, mainly Portuguese, British, and Dutch, collaborated with local chiefs and merchants to capture and sell enslaved Africans. And you see, among the key figures who started slave trade in Badagry at the time was Chief Mobi. We paid a visit to his house and where he started the slave trade about 300 years ago. It is now called the Mobi Royal Family Original Slave Museum. Chief Sumbo Mobi was a ruler of Badagry who played a significant role in slave trade. He was the one who sold thousands of black people to the white men. We also got to find out that his name, Mobi, wasn't his real name. It was given to him by the white men because whenever they come to buy slaves, Mobi always give them kola nuts. In Yoruba, he would say, Oremi, Emobije, meaning my friend, pick kola nuts. So the white men began to call him Mr. Mobi, Mr. Mobi, whenever they come to buy slaves. So when it is time to pack the slaves, they tie them up with big chains, very heavy ones. In fact, as heavy as anything that you can imagine.
For 18 hours
as fuck.
every day.
For
18 hours every day.
It's very, very heavy. My neck spine is spinning me now. I'm not sure I can carry it for 5 minutes.
So the train is for 18 hours every day, and the train will also be around their neck for 3 to 4 months while they are traveling.
So this chain is as old as 500 years.
Yes. So this is the light chain. The light chain is used for the children of the slaves. For the children not to be able to play about while the parents are working on the farm. They gather the children together. You see, they train them together. About 2 things. All this is a mouth sleep. For them not to be able to communicate to one another while they are working on the farm and to eat. It perforates the lips. Then fix this.
So they'll perforate these upper lips and the lower one.
Yes.
They use padlock to kill it.
This one is not terrible for the stubborn slave. They fall this into the slave and down to the wrist. And most times this will not go easily. So they have to break the bone. They break the bones. They force it down. They unscrew these parts. They make the slave climb the platform, and screw it up and suspend their leg from the ground.
So they are standing on nothing.
Yes.
So they are hanging on their hand.
Most of them. All this is called the grinding iron. And slaves don't bear name in that period. They bear the name of their master or any name the master choose to give them. So in order for the masters to identify the slaves, they put this in fire. When this is now very red, they use it to write the name of the master on the body.
So they engrave their bodies.
Yes.
With this thing.
If you are a male, you write on your chest. The female, you write on their back. So if the name of my master names names, you write names on my body. So we call that slave grinding. What they use it for again is to perforate the lips.
Things are happening now.
All this is for the leg of two slaves. One slave right foot, another slave left foot.
So two legs go inside this.
You're meant to walk with it at the same time. Okay? So this was the money that was spent here in that period. We call this cowries. But cowries was only recognized as money among the black people.
Sorry, is it this very one? Is it what was spent, or this is just a replication, or like?
No, just like not
okay, not exactly that one.
Yeah, but this is still the same
okay.
cowries.
But so these chains are exactly those same chains then. So apparently now slaves, they've used this chain and their sweat is on this chain. Sure. I know it's dry, but I'm just trying to know if
I get it.
It feels nostalgic.
Yes.
Wow.
So this was the money that was painted in that period called cowries. But you see, cowries was only recognized as money among the black people. The whites that was coming to buy slave, they did not see cowries as a means of exchange, and that led to the introduction of trade by barter. So they now bringing items in exchange of slaves, corn, sugar, matches, mirror,
to buy human,
tobacco, in exchange of human being. So for a bottle of gin, 10 slaves was an exchange for a bottle of
of this thing.
Gin, yes.
10 slaves. This thing is everywhere outside now.
Yes. So then it was an exchange of 10 slaves.
So is this same one to then, or Jesus? Okay.
But this is a small size cannon gun. This one was in exchange of 40 slaves.
So what is this?
Cannon gun. The biggest
okay, for shooting.
100 years. They brought the cannon gun so we could use it to wage war among ourselves here in order to capture more slaves, sell back. Using the cannon gun, you need a gunpowder. The gunpowder is still in exchange of more slaves. So this is a slave drinking water bowl. And about 40 to 50 slaves, they were meant to drink water from it. At the same time, they have to enter, so they have to bend down and they drink water.
So they bend down. So what if the water gets very low?
That's the end. In the course of them struggling, they push one another. They get caught by the edge and blood drips into the water. They have no choice. They keep drinking the water like that because they only have access to food and water once in a day.
That was exactly what our forefathers and ancestors went through at the time. But after many more years, a man called Seriki Abass took over the slave trade from Mobi, as Mobi was getting old and there was no champion forever. Seriki was just a Yoruba boy who was sold to Europe as slave, but came back to become a slave trader. So, Seriki Abass created his own territory. He built his compound with small cells, like prison, called the Brazilian barracoon.
So the compound is called Brazilian barracoon. Barracoon is a Portuguese word meaning slave cell. So in this compound we have 40 rooms. Each of the room, 40 slaves were stored in each of the room. A minimum of 1,600 slaves were brought into this compound at a time. And there is a man that owns the compound. This man is called Seriki Abass. His birth name was Ifare Milepo. How come Ifare Milepo bears Seriki Abass was captured at the age of 6 in a town called Jogarile in Ogun State. The first person that owns him as a slave is Abass. Abass came from Idaume. Idaume today is in Benin Republic, so he took him down there. He used him as a domestic slave. Abass later on resold him to a white man called Williams. It was a Mr. Williams that took him down to Brazil and also used him as a domestic slave. When he was in Brazil, Williams sent him to school. He taught him how to read and write, and later on he called him out. If you want me to release you, you work for me. So that's the condition given to the man before the man was released. So he brought him back to Nigeria. When he came, he first settled down at Lagos Island. From Lagos Island, he moved down to Badagry to come and settle down. When this man came to Badagry, he was given a title called Seriki. And Seriki means head of the Muslims. So that's why the man is wearing Seriki Abass. His birth name disappeared from the name. So So these are some clothes of Seriki that also left behind.
Those are original materials.
This is Seriki, the clothes he wore in this picture, and these original clothes you are looking at here. And this cloth is more than 200 years old now.
The same clothes is putting on you?
Yeah.
And the same edge type?
No, that one is just opposite.
Seriki continued the slave trade where Moby left it. The craziest part about this slave trade was that human beings were sold in place of materials. The white men bring materials like umbrella, kettle, alcoholic bottle, and some other material things to collect 300 human beings or more. It was like a trade by barter affair.
These are the European products they use in the exchange of human beings. In Nigeria, then they spend calories. The white people cannot use our own money, and that's why they brought all these items they use in the exchange of human beings. In Nigeria, then a value of an umbrella are 40 slaves. Before you can collect one umbrella from a white man, you will need to bring 40 FT men. A bottle of gin, 10 slaves. A bottle of gin, 10 slaves. And there is a man who also brought his wife and daughter to collect a bottle of gin then. The big cannon gun, 100 slaves, while the small cannon gun, 40 slaves. What do they use the cannon gun for? They use it to wage war within their self in order for them to get more slaves so that they can sell to the white man. Kettle and the bead and the brass dish are the items given to Seriki by the Brazilians as a gift. And mirror doesn't have a specific number, it's depending on how you can bargain with the white man. Ceramic bowl, 10 slaves, a dingo, 40 slaves. And these two entries are here since 1840. When this compound
Since 1840.
When this compound was established in 1840. So let's see where 40 people were stored in this compound.
And in the Brazilian barracoon, these slaves were kept in a tiny room. About 40 slaves inside a small cell with no ventilation. The struggle was real. And you see, no matter how bitter the suffering was, no matter the hardship and the struggles, these slaves cannot disobey their black masters. They dare not go against their masters or even try to escape. Otherwise, they will face the bitter consequences, brutal beating and even killed.
This is the man we are talking about, and this is how the man is normally dressed as a Seriki then. These are
Seriki Abass.
Yes. These are the member of council of Seriki. The umbrella you are looking at in that picture, and this is the same umbrella here.
This big one.
Yes. This is one of the umbrella they brought in the exchange of human being. The value of this 40 human being. This umbrella now is more than 200 years old now.
So this is new me so.
Slaves have to carry these on their master's head. It must not fall. And once it falls, they will cut the head of the slaves then as a punishment. And this place you are now is called a waiting cell. 40 people are stored in this inner room. Once the 40 people are in the room, there is a door here before they will lock up the door. They use 3 to 4 months before they can leave this room. Inside this room, this is where the wee and this is where the poo. You can imagine how this place will be messed up there to come in. 40 people are stored in this inner room before they arrive off the ship. And there is only ventilation they have in the room. So that's why most of the slaves die because of the heat and the odor they brought them. Highest medal of Vienna 1873 was written on the bottle. The brass dish cup and no cup given to the man by the Brazilians as a gift. And this is the money they use in Nigeria and the calories. These are the bowls they use in the exchange of human being. The value of one bowl, 10 slaves. No matter how big it is and no matter how small it is. Anybody that needs a 5 bowl, we need to bring 50 slaves. These are the locally made pots they use in Nigeria then. This is a water pot and this is a soup pot, while this one also a water pot.
No matter the hardship and the struggles, these slaves cannot disobey their black masters. They dare not go against their masters or even try to escape. Otherwise, they will face the bitter consequences, brutal beating and even killed.
A kind of torture given to slaves who disloyal their masters, a dog being used to chase runaway slaves, slave at the point of no return, servitude of a slave in the barracoon. These are how they guide them out while working on the farm, in order for them not to eat the farm products or not to communicate with each other, so they will not plan coup against their master. And this is how they carry equipment on a trade mission. Apart from the 40 rooms we have in this compound, Seriki Abass was slaving. That's a story building where the man was slaving in this compound. The building was built in 1847 and the building fell down in 1995. So when the building fell down, this is one of the entries door they used in the building. This is how they hang men and this is how they hang women, because they have sexual intercourse together, and which is not allowed in slavery then. Once they are caught, and this is the kind of punishment given to them, and this is how they will be hanged till they died. So, Seriki has 5 wives and also have 11 children. These are the daughters and sons of Seriki. Legal tender and promissory note written by Seriki then. So the moment they leave this compound, they are taking them across the lagoon called Point of No Return. Any slave that crosses to the other side is not coming back again, and that's why they call the place the Point of No Return.
This well was in the slaves' compound. It was dug in 1847. It was the only well that the slaves drank from.
And this is the water that served the slave in this compound. And this water is still serving the people that live in this compound up to now.
Seriki Abass was like a dictator. Even though he was the head of the Muslim at the time, he also was someone who doesn't tolerate nonsense. He has a small court in the compound where he makes laws and pass judgments to any offenders among his slaves.
Seriki there, he has a court where he passes judgment on the Muslim community. I told you, he's the head of the Muslims. Anything that has to do with Muslim affairs, and this is where they sort it out. And that's the chamber over there, where he relaxed himself after the judgment. And this is the remnant of the building where Seriki was living that fell down in 1995.
The story building.
Where he was sleeping.
Now, when it is time for the slaves to be sold out, the white men comes down to the compound and meet Seriki Abass. So they take 40 slaves out of the small room where heavy chains were around their necks, wrists, and their legs. In total, the white men buy about 300 slaves on every visitation. Then they give Seriki Abass the materials that they have brought in exchange, which is umbrella, bottle, ceramic plates, and a lot more. After that, they march the 300 slaves out of this compound, take them in straight line, walk them down this road to the small river bank ahead, where they transport them to a canoe. Mind you, there was no life jacket at the time, so there was high risk of some of them jumping into the water or dying in the process. They took our ancestors and forefathers away from their fatherland, separated them from the soil, the water and the air that they breathed since birth, with chains all over their body. They sweat, they cried and lamented as their own fellow black men sold them out to the white men. The white men takes them away from their land, straight to the point of no return, the point where they will never return, and anyone who tries to return will not return alive. And that is why it is called the point of no return. So when they drop from the canoe on the other side, they march in straight line and continue their journey on this island. This journey leads them to the seaport where they finally board the ship that takes them to their European slaves in various countries like Cuba, Brazil, Portugal, USA, and other British companies. Okay, this is where the unknown destination starts from. Slave trade.
And the slave trade started here in Badagry around 15 centuries ago. So the trade lasted for good 400 years before it was abolished. During the days of slavery, we have two coasts. We have slave markets in Calabar. The name of the market called Enyong Slave Market, established in the year 1810. In each market day in Calabar, 100 slaves were being sold in a day. Now here in Badagry, we have Lekete Slave Market, finally established in the year 1502, where 300 slaves were being sold in a day. So when they had a signal that the big ships arrived from the high sea, they marched those slaves from the Brazilian barracoon, where we are coming from, down to a place called the slave port. That port that you are seeing happened to be the largest slave port in West Africa. When they get to the port, they load them inside the canoe. They have to paddle the canoe from the other side down here. When they get here, they line them up. The chain will be around the neck, their mouth will be clips, and their leg will be locked. They have to walk on this island. And from this point to the seashore, it's about 1.5 kilometers. So, at the middle of the road, that is where the well is, called Original Sport Slave Spirit Attenuation Well, where they force them to drink water and they lose their memory. And the water is still there up to date, and according to the history, is still effective. So let's go there to see.
So, we decided to trek down to the seaport where the slaves are finally put on the ship. But you see, if we were able to walk fast, we would get to the seaport at least 30 minutes under this hot sun. But our ancestors couldn't walk fast at that time. They had chains on their legs. Surely they were tired, hungry, and weak, and they walked slowly. So apparently, they were likely going to trek about 2 hours before getting to the seaport. It was really sad. But honestly, we couldn't trek it because of the long distance. So we had to take a bike down to the seaport. And while on bike, I kept wondering how our ancestors were able to endure all this pain, with big chains on their neck while they struggled down this path. It was so annoying and so pathetic. On our way, we stopped by a well by the roadside. This well is called the Attenuation Well. The slaves were forced to drink from this well before embarking on their journey across the Atlantic. The water was believed to have been treated with substance intended to make them forget their homes, identities, and origin, and also to weaken them. Because according to history, when the slaves are being walked down the island, down to the ship, they attacked the white men in the ship. So the same black masters dug the well and infected it with some black substance and forced the slaves to drink from it before embarking on their journey. So after they drink from the water, they continued their journey to the seaport. By that time, they would be weak and have no strength to fight the white men. Can you see that it is still the same black people that dug the well to infect the black slaves in order for them not to attack the white people? And finally, we got to the seaport where the white men would be waiting with the ship at the middle of the ocean, waiting to carry the slaves that were coming down from the riverbank. There were always about 300 or more slaves. And sometimes, the white men are always greedy. They buy more than 300 slaves. And when they get to the middle of the water, they throw some of them inside.
So here we have the slave tunnel. Okay. The reason why it was called slave tunnel is that when they march those slaves from the shore down to where the well is, after giving them the water, they march them from the well down here. Yeah. When they get here, they march them up through this tunnel.
Follow this route.
Yeah, exactly. The big ship cannot come down. It will shallow. They will now use small boats to cross those slaves to go and make the big one.
Oh,
at the middle.
Okay, they see another stopover at the middle there.
No, what I mean is, this is an ocean.
Okay.
So the big ship will be in the middle of the ocean.
Okay.
Because it can't come down here.
Okay.
It will shallow.
Okay.
So they will now use small boats to cross them from here down to the middle to go and march them inside the ship. So when they get to the ship, 300 slaves were being sold every market day here in Badagry. But due to some of the white people's selfishness, they even bought more than their power. When they get to the middle of the sea, if they discover that the boat is strangling, they have to drop some.
They will throw some inside the water.
Yes, for the lighter of the ship.
Wow.
And here we have the ocean. Wow, this is big, oh. From here, they can roll on to the Cuba, Jamaica, West Indies, Brazil, Trinidad and Tobago, different places like that.
This ground is shaking, sir. There's water everywhere here. The sea was so big that the ground was shaking. This is the final destination that leads to a new beginning for our forefathers. When they get on the ship, they take them away forever. Very few of them will have the opportunity to return after many years, just like Seriki Abass did. Slavery was a brutal and inhumane system that caused physical, psychological, and cultural destruction to the victim, and even the descendants of the victim. And not to forget that the slave trade in Nigeria began long before the European involvement. So apparently, it was we that sold ourselves to ourselves before the white men came. Then we started selling ourselves to the white men in exchange of materials that was worth nothing in today's markets. Badagry remains a key historical site for studying this dark chapter of Nigerian history. It serves as a reminder of atrocities, preserving the history for future generations.